Today we're going to talk about ratios and proportions. Now, a ratio is a comparison of two quantities. Um, so, sometimes it could be like boys to girls in the classroom or things like that. You know, any ratios we can compare two quantities. But a proportion is stating that two ratios are equivalent. So most of the time, we write proportions to look like this. When we write a proportion, it's when a fraction equals a fraction. And we see that sometimes. Like, for example, when we need common denominators to add and subtract fractions, we use equivalent fractions, which are actually proportions all the time. So suppose we had 2/3 and we wanted it to be 6. Well, we'd say, oh, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. And so we know 2/3 and 4/6 are equal or equivalent. But maybe what you didn't realize is when you have a proportion, something called the cross products are equal. So in other words, what that's saying is it's like the x. 2 times 6 is equal to 4 times 3. So it makes an x. 2 times 6 equals 4 times 3. 12 equals 12. See how they are equal? So we had a proportion, and I'm showing you that their cross products are equal. And that's true for any proportion. The cross products are always going to be equal. And we can use that property to help us solve for missing pieces. For example, in our first problem here, we have 3/5 equals how many 15ths? Well, we can do that cross product. So we can say 5 times x is equal to 3 times 15. Or in other words, 5x equals 45. And then when we divide both sides by 5, we get x equals 9. Similarly, we can do the cross product here. That is -1 times 2x. So -2x equals 3 times 5, 15. Divide both sides by -2. And we get x equals -7.5. Or you could just leave it let's fix that. -15 halves. Okay, so anything like that will work. For this last one, again, the cross product, -5 times n is equal to 2 times 6. So -5n equals 12. Divide both sides by -5. N equals -12/5. And you can just leave it like that. So it's not always nice numbers now that we're in algebra. But you can use the cross product to solve for the missing part of a proportion. We can also write proportions to solve word problems that relate to ratios. So, for example, in this first problem, it says a ratio of teachers to students at a school is 1 to 15. So that means ratio of teachers to students. I like writing ratios as a fraction. So this is my key, okay? That's my key. So I remember teachers go on top, students on the bottom. So ratio of teachers to students at a school is 1 to 15. So that means same order. Teachers go with 1, students go with 15. So it means like on average in classrooms, there's like 1 teacher and 15 students. So this is going to be equal to, again, teachers on top, students on the bottom. It says there are 675 students. So those numbers are going to go on the bottom, just like in our key. So teachers on top, students on the bottom. Now that we wrote this, assuming teachers and students will be staying in this ratio, we're going to have 15 times x is equal to 675. dividing both by 15. Here's my handy dandy calculator because we can use them. 675 divided by 15. Looks like we get x equals 45. So how many teachers are there? There is 45 teachers. Next example, it says 24 loaves of bread cost $48. How much would 10 loaves of bread cost? So we've got two things going on here. We have how many loaves of bread, and we have the price. So 24 loaves of bread. So that's going to go on top, and the price of the bread, the 48, is going to go down here. Assuming everything stays constant, we would then put those 10 loaves on top, and the cost then would go underneath. Okay, so it's same ratio, we can write a proportion. And keeping everything in, keeping track of everything. Loaves on top, dollars on the bottom. So 24x is equal to 48 times 10, so 480. So dividing both sides by 24, looks like we get x equals 20. So how much would 10 loaves cost? Looks like $20. Finally, if balls cost $16, how much do 32 balls cost? So ball versus amount, there's my key. 8 balls, $16 equals, now we want to do 32 balls. Doing the cross product, we're going to get 8x equals, oh, I need my calculator again. 32 times 16, 512. $512 divided by 8. All right, so how much do 32 balls cost? Looks like $64. And that seems about right. Looks like it's $2 a ball.